Dustin Webb, Dust to Glory Fitness here, head coach and trainer. And we have a special guest tonight for our nutrition seminar on learning about nutrition and how it works within fitness. And here to talk about that is my good friend, my coach, Bob Pagoria. So Bob,
thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Glad to be here. So as I mentioned in my monologue, I want to kind of circle this around nutrition. However, if there's anything else that you have a question on, again, whether it has to do with exercise, resistance exercise, whatever, throw it at me. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up a challenge. You guys like challenges. That's why you're here. So let me open up a challenge. Who wants to ask me a first question? Go ahead.
How do you know if you're getting a balanced plant-based diet?
So did you guys hear the question? How do you know if you're getting a balanced plant diet?
Plant-based.
Plant-based. Did she say balanced plant-based diet?
Plant.
Yeah, so feel free to answer however you want.
Okay. So my first question would be, why? That would be my first question. So what I would say though is if you're vegetarian or vegan, if you're doing that for reasons of a personal belief or whatever, I won't say anything about it. However, if you're doing it for health and nutritional reasons, I'll probably have a little bit of an argument about it. So here, let me explain why. So on a plant-based diet, balance is key. So I will say that one of the key words that you just mentioned is balance. So if you think about what balance really means, and everything in life is balance. Everything boils down to balance. There's no extreme. We should not be missing anything in our diet, and then that would include animal protein. So balance is the key in every aspect of our life, especially in nutrition, okay? So if you're gonna get a balance, let me answer your question. If you're gonna get a balance in a plant-based diet, you better make sure that you're getting all the right types of vegetarian sources to get all the essential amino acids from a protein that you can. So let me just add on to that a little bit. You'll probably get 4 essential amino. Do you know how many essential amino acids there really are? There's 9. So what that really means is those are protein building blocks. You can't live without protein. Essential means you have to get it exogenously. You have to get it through a food source. Now, if I eat a protein source that's incomplete or doesn't have all the essential amino acids, that's like having a chain with the links taken out of the middle. The body doesn't really assimilate it. It doesn't really utilize it optimally, okay? So what you have to do, if you're gonna eat a vegetarian or if you're gonna eat a plant-based diet, you're gonna have to make sure that plant-based diet has all these 9 essential amino acids in it to get the benefit from it, okay? So what you're gonna have to do, like if, let's say you have rice, it's probably got 4 essential amino acids in it. Let's say you have beans, that probably has maybe 3 of the other essential amino acids in it, right? And let's just say maybe have some spinach. Maybe that has the other 2. So you're gonna have to make sure you eat a combination and a balance of that plant-based source to make sure you get those essential amino acids. Does anybody know why you don't have to worry about non-essential amino acids? There's 13 of them. Because the body makes it on its own. You don't have to get it through an exogenous source. Here's the beauty about animal protein. Every animal-based source protein has all 9 essential amino acids in them. You get it inherently. Okay? Now, that's just one macronutrient, protein. That's one. There's 2 other macronutrients you got to worry about, and what are they? You got protein's one.
Fat.
Fat's one.
All right.
Carbohydrates are another one. So you just hit on 3 essential nutrients that the body needs to survive. 3 macronutrients. Does anybody know what a 4th nutrient would be? It's the granddaddy of them all.
Water?
Yeah, water. Very good.
Give her a hand here.
There's 2 micronutrients. So you guys all learned this in grade school. There's 6 essential nutrients that we need to survive. This all boils down to your balance question. See, I can answer a question if you take a half degree because there's so much to know. There's 6 essential nutrients. You guys just named 4. What are the other 2? I'll give you a hint. They're micro. And they're abundant in the food sources that you just asked me about. Plants.
Calcium.
What is calcium?
Mineral. Right.
Mineral. By the way, calcium just happens to be the most abundant mineral in the body. And what was the other one? If it's minerals, it's got to be
Vitamins.
So you guys just hit on all 6. Okay? To make sure you get all 6 essential nutrients in the body, you must and you should eat a well-balanced diet. If plant-based is the way you want to go, I won't pass judgment. But if you do, you got to make sure you get those sources to make sure you get all 9 essential amino acids in your diet, without question. Here's why. I'm going to expound on this just a little bit. This all boils down to what you guys are doing. 90%, get this, 90% of your metabolism is driven through your lean body mass, your muscle tissue. 90% of your immunity is driven through your lean body mass. That's why you guys are here, to make yourselves better, to make yourselves weller. Is that a word? It is. 90% of everything, your immunity, 90% of your flexibility, 90% of your strength, every bit of that is driven through your lean body mass. But most importantly, for why most people engage in this, 90% is driven, 90% of your metabolism is driven through your lean body mass. 90%. So, 25% of that muscle is protein. What would the other 75% be? Anybody know? It's water. Okay? So now you see why protein is so important. Now you can see why the marketers, or marketeers, are jumping on the protein bandwagon. Because people are getting smart. People are starting to understand just how essential optimal amounts of protein in a given day are. But make no mistake, the best protein sources that you can eat are the most protein efficient, the most bioavailable on the planet come from an animal. Okay? Anybody guess what the #1 source of protein on this planet would be if, now I have to phrase this differently because it's kind of a trick question. In a regular sense, not after exercise or anything like that. What would be anybody have any idea what the #1 source of protein on this planet would be?
Is it eggs?
Give me just take a
Eggs.
shot. Huh?
Eggs?
Who said eggs? Yeah, that's exactly right. So if you actually look at the DNA of an egg, they are #1. If you look at the DNA of an egg, they're about as close to human muscle tissue as you're going to get. That's where the term bioavailable comes from. Now, let's just say you went through a rigorous workout. You have just depleted glycogen, which is stored sugar, in the muscle cell. That's where your stored energy is. There's 2 places the body stores glycogen or sugar for immediate use. Very first place is the liver. It goes there first no matter what. When it fills up, it's looking to go to the muscle cell to hydrate and to replenish the muscle cell. Okay? That is in the form of glycogen or stored sugar. Okay? So let me ask you this. Remember, 25% of this is protein. So let me ask you this. So you go through a rigorous workout. You break the muscle tissue down. You deplete the glycogen. I know you guys know this. What's the #1 source of protein you want to have immediately following your workout? Anybody know that? Starts with a W?
Whey.
Yeah, whey protein. You bet.
No way.
Whey protein, yeah, no way. Whey protein is about on the same plane as eggs, but it's under certain conditions. The reason whey protein is #1 after a rigorous workout is because the efficiency of that whey protein is very high, which means it gets through the system, gets to the liver, and it gets to the muscle cell very quickly for quick recovery. And never ever, we'll hopefully talk about this a little bit, never ever underestimate recovery, especially as natural aspiring athletes like you guys are. I shouldn't even say aspiring. natural athletes as you are. Okay? So, all that for one question. Anybody, the next source, so these would be number one under certain conditions. Anybody guess what number two might be? Want to throw something out? Fish is up there, yeah. Fish is about number three.
Somebody else said chicken.
Yeah, chicken is right on the same plane as fish. They're pretty close. I'd actually probably put chicken just a tad ahead of fish, and then you went actually up here would be your lean red meats. And then at the very bottom, if you eat them in the right combination, would be a plant-based protein.
That marker's better, Bob.
Huh?
That marker's
The
better.
plant-based protein will be at the very bottom. The body doesn't assimilate it very well. I've been in the gym for 46 years and I still trip over dumbbells. So that was a good question. Based off of everything that I just said here, any add-on questions to that? Yes.
You were talking about post-workout recovery
Yes.
and the whey protein. What are your thoughts on the theory about chocolate milk after a workout?
Good.
A lot of people talk about that being a great recovery drink.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
It's a great add-in. Good question. So the question was, what is my take on chocolate milk as a post-recovery drink? It's a good add-on. It's not enough. But here's what chocolate milk does have. See if I can draw this without tripping. You have a eraser here somewhere?
Yes, right, it's not to your right.
Oh, I can reach it. That's awesome.
Just for you, Bob.
So here's what you have to think about. There's that muscle cell. Here's one thing before I get into that real quick. One thing I want you guys to realize. Remember I said this is 90% of your BMR or your metabolism, your lean body mass. Let's say I've gone a very calorie restrictive diet, which I'm adamantly opposed against. Very calorie restricted diet. So in other words, you're not getting the right amount of nutrients that the body needs to even sustain itself. You don't getting enough nutrients to even maintain what you have. So what happens, the body starts looking in other places to get the nutrients it needs. And one of the first places it's gonna go is the muscle tissue. It's gonna break it down, the protein in the muscle into glucose. It's called gluconeogenesis. It's gonna break the muscle tissue down, convert it into glucose, and use it for energy. As you break that protein down, you're breaking the muscle tissue down. Think about this muscle cell as your fat burning furnace. If I break that muscle tissue down through gluconeogenesis, I'm decreasing my fat burning furnace. My BMR is actually gonna go down. My pituitary is gonna tell my thyroid, just shut down. I can't keep going this way, I gotta stay homeostatic. That's when people really start having problems, start hitting brick wall. Geez, I'm down to 1,000 calories a day and nothing's happening. I feel worse. Actually look like a smaller version of what I was, and you know what? You are. Because this is exactly what's happening. Okay? So with that said, to answer your question, think about this. This is your fat burning furnace. Here's the liver, we'll talk about that again. Here's the pancreas, that's important, believe it or not, when we talk about chocolate milk. So when we talk about chocolate milk, and we talk about post-workout, those three essential nutrients that I talked about, the macronutrients, are critical. Most people will tell you that you don't and should not have fat with your carbohydrates and your protein after your workout because it'll blunt the insulin response, which is supposed to send the nutrients to the liver and the muscle cell for replenishing. Hogwash. The body cannot assimilate protein without the presence of fat. Fat is essential for the body to assimilate protein. And what does chocolate milk have in it? A great source of natural fat. Okay? So, with the chocolate milk, you're getting the fat. What else are you going to get with chocolate milk? Milk. What's the mac? Yes.
I was just gonna ask, so you're talking the whole milk?
Of course.
Okay.
Don't ever, well, to hope we could talk about this, you guys, though. Do not shy away from fat. Please don't go on super fat restrictive diets. It'll only hurt you. It will not help you. It'll actually lower a lot of your hormonal levels, especially you males. It'll start to lower a lot of your testosterone levels. You gotta be careful, when your testosterone levels lower, your estrogen levels inherently will increase, and actually you start to get a little bit more flabbier than what you actually are expecting to get. So fat, yes, fat, so whole would be the answer. What else am I gonna get if it's milk? It's an animal product. Yeah, I'm gonna get an okay amount of protein. But it's chocolate too, so what else am I getting?
Sugar.
Yeah, I'm getting my carbohydrates too. So I got actually a pretty good balance right there. However, can anybody really, if I look at that, what do I really need a little bit more of after a vigorous workout to replenish the glycogen and to help rebuild the muscle tissue? There's two that I probably need a little bit more of.
Your carbs.
Yeah, you need a little bit more carbs, I'll explain. Yep, and you need a little bit more concentrated protein. You're probably only gonna get about 12 grams out of this. Your carbohydrates, depending on how much you get, you're probably gonna get about 25 grams. What you really want after you have depleted the glycogen and you wanna replenish and you wanna rebuild that muscle cell, the protein, this goes to females and males. Your protein should be anywhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 35 grams. The body will eat it up and soak it up like a sponge. Now, the transport system to get it there is a hormone called insulin. It's the mother of all hormones, by the way. Well, the insulin is secreted from the pancreas. So here's what happens. Rigorous workout, the glycogen stores in here are gone, they're depleted. They're depleted in the liver. The muscle cell is like, feed me, bathe me. Perfect time within 45 minutes after the workout. There's a reason for that too. Remind me not to forget to bring up why within 45 minutes.
45 minutes. Okay.
Because I'll forget.
Okay.
So what happens now is I actually want insulin present in my bloodstream. I want insulin to be able to take the nutrients that I've just fed it. First of all, it's going to send it to the liver to fill it up. But then I want it to go to the muscle cell to help with recovery. So here's what happens. Normal blood sugar is about 80 to 120 milligrams per deciliter. That's normal. When I take in a higher carbohydrate with protein in there as well, what's going to happen to my blood sugar? It's going to rise. It's probably going to go up somewhere around 200. Well, lo and behold, when that happens, insulin gets secreted from the pancreas, grabs the extra nutrients that I just took in, takes it to the liver to replenish the glycogen stores there, which are very finite. And then once it's filled, it's going to take it right up to the muscle cell and replenish and add to the recovery. Okay? But I'm not going to get enough of an insulin spike if I don't bump the carbs up enough. The carbs here should be, I didn't get into this, anywhere between 45 and 50. Almost double what you're getting in the protein. The fat should be about half of what you're getting in the protein. Okay? Make sense?
So Bob, that kind of goes against what people would think. They would take more protein after the workout.
Yeah, the body can only assimilate so much protein, honestly. There's only so much that it can utilize. Just, anybody have any idea where it goes after it's used what it can and it's got nowhere else to go?
It's eliminated.
Huh?
It's eliminated.
Yeah, but where else would it go? We got that nasty old looking thing called a triglyceride. And a triglyceride, which means 3 fatty acids, there's tri, attached to a glycerol body. That's what that is. Here's the thing. Once you fill this up and this up, just like gas tanks, they're finite. Once they're filled up, I should have drew this down here. Once they're filled up, the muscle cell in here, they'll go right, just like a gas tank. Go right over in here, guess what? Just take as much as you want to give it and just keep getting bigger and bigger. Okay?
So what's the implication of that with the triglyceride?
Store fat.
Okay.
All triglyceride is store fat. There's also triglycerides in your blood. But we're talking about adipose or stored fat. Okay? Now here's the beauty though. Here's the beauty. You're in such good shape and such good condition. Your metabolism is high because your fat burning furnace is high. You're probably going to burn that up anyway very quickly, as long as your BMR is up. So even if it was to come over here and start coming in fast storage, it's not going to amount to anything that's really going to make that much difference unless you're going crazy with it. okay?
So why after 45 minutes?
Oh, yeah, good question. Here's why you guys will read or you've heard. You really need to take that post-workout recovery drink within an hour after the workout. Absolutely, positively, physiologically, biochemically accurate. And here's why. Everything happens at the muscle cell, guys and ladies. So there's that wonderful old muscle cell again, and all the things that it does. Flexibility, strength, 90% of your metabolism, glucose tolerance, insulin sensitivity. Yeah, I can go on and on. This, 90% of your immunity. Protects your bones, protects your tendons, protects your ligaments. Keep going. This is the center of your being. 90% of your life is driven through your lean body mass, through your muscle tissue. It's not about having big bulging muscles. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about augmenting your lean body mass to its optimal potential, naturally. So why within an hour? At the muscle cell level, we have these little things called receptor sites. You can call them doors if you want. We want these doors open so that when insulin comes screaming through, the doors are open and says, come on in, bring the nutrients in. After about 45 minutes, these receptor sites start to die off. The doors start to shut. So insulin comes screaming through. Oops, can't get in. Bounces up. Where's it going?
Triglycerides.
Yeah, go right down here. That's why it's critical. That's why it's important. Now, when people are glucose intolerant or they're insulin insensitive, this is what's happening right here to most people. So you see when they go get their blood culture done, they go get a blood panel, it actually shows what their glucose is. It gives them like what the glucose reading is. It'll actually indicate whether or not they're insulin resistant. That's what's happening right there. Does anybody know what the number one way is to reactivate these receptor sites?
Fasting.
I will tell you this. I'll tell you this. That's close. That is close. But fast is a 4-letter word to me, so it would be relative. To me, fasting would be, what do you mean by fasting? How long would you say fasting is? If you had
To do that over 24 hours.
If you had an amount of time in your head, actually you could work in reverse. Actually, fasting could actually make this worse. So if you thought about, if you set a 24-hour fast, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
After the body's gone about 4 or 5 hours without those essential nutrients that I just talked about, guess what? It's going other places to steal it. It isn't just going to the triglyceride. It isn't just going to store fat many times. This is a place where it actually resists most. Guess where it's coming from? It's coming from right here. So it starts to actually break this down and decrease the size of that. So my position on it is, there's never ever a time you have to fast unless you're doing a 12-hour fast for your doctor. You're going to get a blood panel. You're going to go get some blood work done. There's never ever a time to really ever have to fast. And once you go over 4 or 5 hours, the body starts going other places, start leaching nutrients. Females, especially for you, it's going to start going to the bone, and it's going to start decreasing calcium. It's going to start looking for other areas to get nutrients. I know fasting, intermittent fasting, is kind of an in thing now. There's a lot of literature out there that promotes it, but there's also a lot that doesn't. I happen to be on the side from a physiological perspective that there's no value in it. As a matter of fact, I think it's counterproductive. But what I will say, it could actually make this worse. But here's where, like what you're talking about, there's some merit in what you said, and I'll tell you why. How many people in here ever run, I know you have, any people in here ever run long distance marathons or anything like that? I'm gonna get exactly what you're talking about. That's a long way, right? So what you wanna do is, if you can, is there a way that I can maximize the energy store here in the liver Is there a way that I can maximize the energy stored in my muscle cell? Because that's where the glycogen lives. That's what your body's going to use for energy. So what have been done in the past with this is people will actually either carb deplete for a long period of time, or they won't eat. So when you don't eat, you're not taking in carbs. So what happens is these glycogen stores get very low, real low. Then what happens is, theoretically, because they've been so low for so long, the muscle cell will actually hold about 2 times more than it normally would because it's craving it and starving it. Okay? In theory, it sounds fantastic, and there have been many people who've actually gone through and done that. However, it has been shown, and it has been proven, that in many cases what happens is it just decreases the size of this over the long term, which it does, and will actually shut these doors long term. So let's just say that, let's say it worked. It's still not number one. Anybody know what number one would be? Think here, this would actually logically make a connection. If you think about muscle tissue, lean body mass, what's one of the best ways to build it?
Resistance training.
Yeah, resistance exercise. So nothing, not even close on the planet, comes close to stimulating these receptor sites like resistance exercise. Nothing. Okay? So we should all be doing resistance exercise anyway. That should be a part of you guys are doing it here tonight. This should be a part of everybody's regimen. Here's what they're doing in a lot of some of the other states like out in California. We're always 10 years behind everything they do. They're already starting to bring, thank God, I've been saying this for over 35 years. They're starting to bring young kids now and introduce them into weight training or resistance exercise at a very young age. Smart. Anybody have any reason why that would be smart? It's for every reason I just talked about right here. If you really want to talk about preventing the onset of type 1 and type 2 childhood diabetes, doggone it, start getting them on a resistance exercise, because it's these receptor sites and it's this kind of a situation that starts to cause that problem. Okay? Childhood obesity, onset childhood obesity. Start building that fat burning furnace up. Start getting them conditioned. They don't have to maximize with the weight. There's no need for that. But start adding a little bit of resistance to their muscle tissue, more to their bones. Bone growth, bone health, nothing better. Ladies, calcium's an important part, but it pales in comparison to resistance exercise for optimal osteohealth. Make sense? Something else I was going to say about that, now I forgot. There's so much to say.
I was going to ask a question. I mean, you talked to me about cholesterol. We talked about
Oh
that.
yeah,
and how
cholesterol is
that's
a wonderful substance.
precursor for
Yeah,
exercise.
poor cholesterol gets such a bad rap. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about that. Hey, is it okay to erase this?
Yeah.
Okay. Did that help? Did that help? All right. Cholesterol. Let's talk a little bit about that. Good cholesterol, anybody know?
HDL.
HDL.
Yeah. Anybody know what that means?
I guess
Oh, you got a smart group here. High density lipoprotein. So basically what you've got is you've got a protein shell, that's your carrier, carrying a fatty substance, which is cholesterol. High density means you've got more protein than you do the fatty substance. Of course, low density would mean just the opposite. So HDL, so the bad one would be, you guys should come up here and teach me, because you guys are pretty good. You got these guys pretty well educated. So let's do it this way. Let's think of HDL, since it's good. Let's think of HDL as a truck with a sweeper on the back, but it's a steel truck. That doesn't look very, that looks like a measle truck. But it's a sweeper nonetheless. Let's think of LDL, we'll just put steel here. We'll think of LDL as a glass truck. Okay. There's that wonderful liver again. All cholesterol is created and secreted from the liver to be sent over to the cells for the body for regeneration. It's also sent into the GI tract for the creation of bile acid to help you digest food. Moms, daughters, all you, without it, you wouldn't be able to have kids, and none of us would be here today. So, it gets secreted from the liver and it goes to the cells of the body. Now remember, your arteries bend, they turn, and they twist. They're not straight. I'd be a lot taller if they were. So they do this. So HDL, or LDL, which is a glass truck, gets secreted from the liver. That glass truck hits the arterial wall. Because it's glass, what do you think happens? It breaks. So it drops the fatty substance onto the arterial wall just like this. HDL, however, is coming in right behind it. That's a steel truck with a sweeper. So it gets secreted, it hits the arterial wall, it's steel, it doesn't break, but it picks up what LDL left behind, shuttles it to the cells of the body. What isn't utilized within the body is brought back to the liver and recycled or eliminated. 101 LDL, HDL, just an analogy to explain the difference between the two. The perfect ratio would be a 1-to-1. 90 milligram per deciliter, 90 milligram per deciliter. 2-to-1 is very good. 3-to-1, we're starting to fall off a little bit. Okay, so now that you got the elementary part of it down, let me get into a little bit of the science. But as all good Italians, I will draw and explain it with my hands.
But one quick question, you
Yeah.
said 2-to-1 or 2-to-1 or 3-to-1. Is that 2-to-1
Ratio. Yeah, so it would be LDL to HDL. So if it's 1-to-1, it'd be LDL to HDL. If it's 2-to-1, LDL to HDL. Okay. And when you do your blood panel, when you get a blood panel done, it'll have that on your report out. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit into the physiological realm and a little bit of the science behind this. You're gonna love this. Okay. Where does all the work done in your body? Right around the heart, right? Blood in, blood out. That's where all the work is done, right here. So when you hear about somebody having plugged arteries, 99% of the time, where is it? It's around the heart. And what do we call it?
Bypass.
Yep, and heart disease, right? So it all happens right here. Well, there's a reason. If you were to take a garden hose, notice you don't see too many 35 and 40-year-olds that get heart disease. Usually it's after 45, 50. If I was to take a garden hose and just start stepping on it every day, all day, for 50 years, eventually it's gonna wear out. It's gonna rupture, right? Well, that's what's happening here. All the work is done here, in, out, in, out, in, out. These arterial walls start to break down. They start to rupture. Well, guess what? Thank God we have something that'll come in and patch it. Anybody know what it is? It's cholesterol. Yay! So the liver secretes cholesterol, cholesterol comes through, welds it back together so that it doesn't burst, and we don't hemorrhage it and we don't bleed to death. Well, guess what? It's also breaking down here. So cholesterol comes in, welds it back together. You can see it's starting to narrow. It's not cholesterol's fault. Cholesterol's just doing what it's supposed to. And I don't care if you have 150 milligram per deciliter cholesterol or a 500 milligram per deciliter cholesterol, that's still gonna happen. Does not, and it has to, because if you don't, you'll die. So it starts to narrow, and you can see it's already starting to cause a problem. Ruptures here, builds up. Ruptures here, builds up. Getting close to heart attack. So the question is, what do I do to prevent it? There's an answer. I keep tripping over these dumbbells. But I should stand on it, make you taller. There's an answer to this. If you think about what this arterial wall is made of, it's made of collagen. Okay? That's what this is made out of. So the real answer is, what do I do to prevent that from breaking down? The answer is keeping the collagen healthy, keeping it from breaking down or rebuilding it. There's one nutrient on this planet that prevents that from happening or rebuilds that collagen. Anybody know what it is? It's called vitamin C.
Oh, that's right.
Rebuilds this collagen, keeps that collagen healthy so that it doesn't break down in cholesterol, doesn't have a reason to even stick to that arterial wall and cause it to narrow.
What about ALA? Or isn't that part of that too?
Alpha lipoic
Yeah.
acid? Yeah, remind me to answer that question too. So, vitamin C is what helps keep that. Now here, think about this. We all love analogies. We all can draw to analogies and it makes sense. We are one of the only animals on the planet that even attract heart and get heart disease. An animal might have a non-functional heart or have a heart function problem, but they don't get heart disease. Why? Anybody know?
Produce vitamin C.
Their body makes its own vitamin C. We do not. We have to get it through exogenous sources. Now, when I talk about vitamin C, I'm talking about ample amounts. Retract. Optimal amounts. You're not going to get a 30 milligram vitamin C supplement out of all of your multivitamin and prevent that from occurring. 30 milligrams is negligent at best anyway. My recommendation for vitamin C, remember, vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin. And to get optimal amounts to prevent something like this from occurring, you're not going to get it from orange juice either. What are you going to, well, you get some vitamin C from orange juice, but you're going to get enough? No, but to get enough, what are you going to get a lot of along with it? Lots of sugar, right? Yeah, lots of stored fat too. So my recommendation is this, a good reputable supplement without question, you will never get, I don't care, you'll never get enough through a food source to get the optimal amounts that you need to maintain optimal health and wellness. My recommendation on this is about 3,000 milligrams to 5,000 milligrams in a day. Not all at once. It's a water-soluble vitamin. So let's say that you only really assimilate and you only absorb 3,500 out of 5,000. Isn't that a waste, Bob? Maybe, but wouldn't you rather get more, enough of what you're supposed to get than not enough? Especially if it's water soluble and it's not going to toxify your system anyway, which it will not. You'd have to take a truckload to toxify your liver of something like vitamin C. You'd have to take a truckload of something like vitamin E to toxify your liver. Okay? Let me give you one more quick thing on nutrition with vitamin C. This is important. Okay, you guys got that? This is not my theory. So here's what I always tell people. Is that your theory? No, this is science. And you know what? You can go against science all you want. You can try, but you know what? Science wins every single time. So you might as well play along with it, right? And go with it. And that's what I'm trying to teach you here tonight. So one of the other things I'm going to talk to you about vitamin C is, get this. No matter how healthy we are, we can all attract cancer. I'm going to show you guys tonight one very strong way to prevent it. Forever. Okay? If you think about what a healthy cell is, or a cell, it's divided into three parts, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Besides a muscle cell has nitrogen, but we'll leave that aside for now. When you take in any kind of a free radical or a carcinogen, which you're breathing in right now because it's in the air, it's everywhere. It's in the ground, it's in the air, it's in your clothes, it's in your house, it's everywhere. So we always hear people say, oh, everybody gets cancer every day, right? They're right, it's true. You guys are breathing it in right now. So what happens is you have a carcinogen or a free radical that comes in and it penetrates the cell, the healthy cell. It actually comes in and actually destroys the oxygen element of the cell. When it does that, that cell is no longer healthy, that cell mutates. And what is cancer? Nothing but a mutated healthy cell. Well, because it's just like any other cell, it wants to take over its environment, take over where it's at, it starts to proliferate and augment and become bigger, which we then would extrapolate into a tumor, correct? Not good. This is why immunity is critical. This is why also resistance exercise helps prevent this, because 90% of your immune system is driven through your lean body mass. But beyond that, vitamin C, let me go there again. Vitamin C, if I take in those vitamin C amounts that I told you, vitamin C actually lends the oxygen element back to the cell to make it healthy again.
So
It prevents the oxidation of that cell, where you get the term antioxidant. That's why vitamin C is called an antioxidant. It antioxidizes the cell. Adds that oxygen element back to the cell to make it healthy again. But only going to happen with optimal amounts of vitamin C, not with 30 milligrams a day, not with 100 milligrams a day. One other nutrient that goes along with it is vitamin E. My recommendation on that is 400 to 800 international units or IUs a day. What does vitamin E do? Vitamin E actually comes in and actually helps to keep the membrane of the cell healthy and helps actually prevent the free radical and carcinogen from even getting into the cell. So you're getting what we call a 1-2 punch here of antioxidants. Critical, especially today, with everything, the way everything is made, with all the chemicals that we're always exposed to, absolutely critical. And there's a reason that we see an uptick in cancer from the 50s and the 60s. It's because they're adding more junk. They're oxidizing our cells that much quicker, and we have to stay ahead of it. Questions on that? Does that make sense?
you said that prevents it helps keep the cells healthy, but what would help get rid of the free radicals? Or if they're in the
Nothing.
system?
You have to, that's why, see, that's a great question, because you have to actually prevent the manifestation of what you're taking in. So let's talk about organic for a second. Just help answer your question. A lot of people want to go organic because it's healthier, because they use less chemicals. Okay, that's fine. If that makes you feel good, I'm happy for you. If you want to do that, that's okay. But you're still exposed to all this stuff. That stuff is still in the ground, it's still in the air, it's still in the water, it's still everywhere. So my point is, you're never ever going to get away from it. But what you can do is you can take action to actually mitigate it and actually help fight it off through these means. Absolutely, I really, resistance exercise, optimal supplementation, along with, beautiful question, balanced diet. There is no real secret to diet either. I love that you answered. I love the question that you asked in the beginning with balance, because that's so key. We make dieting, I don't even like the word dieting because it's not really what it should be called. We make it hard. And the reason we make it hard is we're looking for the quick fix. And then we watch TV and they got all these quick fixes on TV. So we're confused. Well, if it works on TV, that's got to work. There's no magic bullet. There isn't. It's really about balance. It really is. Protein, carbohydrates, and fats, where are they at? Are they in my diet? Am I getting too much of one and not enough of another? But here's the real key. Eat every 4 to 5 hours. No question about it. But eat moderate, balanced meals throughout the day. Not only does it keep your blood sugar stable, not only does it keep your appetite in check, but it also prevents insulin spikes and fat storage. Insulin is get this, insulin is a wonderful hormone, but it's also a nasty hormone. So you have to manage it. So to manage it, you have to eat a balanced diet. You can't eat a whole plate of pasta, not have any protein source or fat source, because all you're going to get is a big burst of insulin. So what happens if I get a big burst of insulin? I'm going to show you real quick. I know I'm running out of time.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Oh, good. I got all kinds of time. I go and eat that big plate of pasta or a big old bowl of ice cream, whatever it is. Normal blood sugar, 80, 120, baby just shot up to about 300. It shot up quick though, which means it spiked. When it's, here's zero, here's ground zero, 80 to 120. because that is a very high glycemic. No such thing, guys, gals, there's no such thing as complex and simple carbohydrates. That's a term that means nothing. What matters is it a high glycemic food? Is it a high glycemic or a low glycemic food? What glycemic means is how quickly does it impact your blood sugar? That's how quickly insulin's gonna respond. So if I eat nothing but a big high glycemic meal with a big bowl of noodles, what's gonna happen is that 300 is gonna happen very quickly. Well, the pancreas notices that, and it comes screaming out with insulin. Insulin comes up and grabs the sugar, stuffs it into the liver, tries to stuff it into the muscle cell, but the problem is it took more than it needed because it's spiked. So you're hoping you have enough to store it in here because this have a capacity without it spilling over because it spiked and grabbed a lot more than it needed. That's one problem. The other problem is if it spiked and grabbed more than it needed, if I'm starting out at 80 to 120, where do you think I am now? Probably around 60. Guess what I'm going to be craving here? More sugar. So I'm going to go to the vending machine and get some animal crackers. And the whole thing starts over. Or I'm going to go get a Coke. And the whole thing starts over. That's where balance comes in. Now that's not to say it has to be 100% every day. We're just talking about managing it and managing it practically. You don't have to be perfect, but you just have to try to maintain a balance, just like everything you do in life. Does that make sense? It really isn't hard. It's not. You should just eat till you're satisfied, wait 3-4 hours to eat again. That simple. It really is.
So Bob, two things. There's a question online.
Yeah.
I know you wrote it, but maybe to reiterate again for
I mean, you can't read that?
you wrote it earlier. What's the, yeah, I can't read. What's the optimum mix of macros, 40%, percentage of carbs, fat, and protein?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really does depend. There's a lot of different recommendations out there. What I will tell you, that's a good question. It really depends on timing. It really does. So if it's after a workout, of course you want your carbohydrates to be about 60%. You want your protein to be about 30, and you want your fat to be about 10, because you want that insulin spike. Throughout the day, you really should keep it balanced where you're around 40, 30, 30, maybe 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fat. I'm a huge advocate of what I call an isometric diet or isometric plan, where 33%, 33%, and 33%. How can you get any more balanced than that? How are you going to manage your blood sugar any better than that? And how are you going to manage the storage of glycogen in the liver and muscle stop spilling over any better than that? But if you go into 40, 30, 30, that's just about as good. But after a workout, it should be a 60, 30, 10.
For a simpleton like me, what would an example look like?
Like after workout or just a regular?
Regular meal.
Okay. And you're not a simpleton, by the way. You've taught me as much as I've taught you. So let's just take like a 40, 30, 30.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about 40 grams of carbohydrates, we'll say carbs are 40 grams. Anybody know how many calories are in a gram of carbohydrates? Right here, 4? 4 calories per gram?
4.
Okay. Anybody know how many are in protein? Right here, 4.
4.
Do anybody know how many calories in a gram of fat?
4.
Do I hear 9?
No, yes, no.
Hey, here's a good one. It's to throw you off. Only an Italian would know this. How many calories in a gram of alcohol?
7.
Yes! That's awesome. Sure gonna start my kid? That's fantastic. You gotta give him something for that.
Go get a protein bar.
What are you giving him? Alright, that's great. I love it. Alright, so if you look at that, then that's 160 calories. That's 120 calories. And that's 270 calories. Right? Yeah. Okay. So here's a good way. Think about it. I like to think of it in 2 different aspects. Believe it or not, even before I go, you guys will die. even a couple weeks I used to compete a lot. Now I just train people for it. All natural, by the way. Even 2 weeks before a competition, I'd go to McDonald's. Yep. Even though, yeah, about 2 weeks before.
Spot doesn't hear you.
So let's just say that I went to McDonald's. Let's talk about it going out, and let's talk about just a practical meal. 40, 30, 30. So to get 40 grams of carbs, if I went out to McDonald's to get, maybe I'd just go get a grilled chicken sandwich. They come on a pretty good sized bun. That bun itself is going to be about 35 grams. Okay? That chicken sandwich is probably about 4 ounces. Right? Which means if it's 4 ounces, and probably going to get, there's 6 grams per ounce of protein. So 6 times, that's going to give me about 25 grams of protein. Okay? Now the chicken sandwich, maybe it doesn't have a whole lot of, there's a couple of grams in the chicken sandwich, there's a couple. But let's just put that to the side. I can get something else to put on it to get the fat that I need. I need to get, this is wrong. This is wrong, by the way. This is percentage, not grams. So that's 40%, that's 30%, that's 30%, so that's not right. So let's take this off. That's what I was talking about, percentages. Now let's put them into grams. So let's say that if I go with a 40%, so what I have to do to figure this out, I have to figure out, I'm gonna go on, let's say I'm gonna wanna, I'll start with 2,000 calories, right? So 40% of 2,000 is what? 50? Or 500, is that right? Is that right? Or is that 800? 800, right? 800?
Yes.
Yes.
And this would be 600, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Should be like a
And that would be 600, correct?
Yep.
So I take 4 into that, right? That gives me 200. There we go. This is more like it. That's 200. And what is that? So that's 6 and 4 and a 600, right? What is that, 150? Is that about right? And I take, what have I got here?
9.
9 into 600 is what? 6? 60? That's right? 60 to 70, we'll say? Does that sound about right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So these extrapolate into grams. That's all day though. If I split this up into 4 meals, or 5, 5 into 200 is 40, right? 5 meals. 5 into 150 is 30, right? This would be carb, this would be protein, that'd be grams, right? Because that's how many, I'm getting 5 meals a day. 5 into 60, what gives me about what, 10, 12? It's about perfect. There you go. That's how you figure it out. If you go 40, 30, 30, say you start with 2,000 calories as a baseline, 4 calories per gram, 4 calories per gram, 9 calories per gram, comes out to 200 grams, 150 grams, 60, 70 grams all day, 5 meals for each one of them, 5 in each one of those, 40, 30, 12. This is what you're getting per meal. Did I answer your question? That bun that I was talking about for the chicken sandwich, you give me about 35. I'll get about 25 from the chicken. And I'll get a little bit for the fat. I'll get a little bit just from here. But I'm gonna have to add a fat source to get to the 12 grams. You only got about 2 grams. Honestly, believe me, you get a little mayo on there or get a piece of cheese to bring that fat up to about 10 to 12 grams. What I would usually do is, this is actually from either mayo or cheese and a chicken. What I would do is I'd get a side salad and I'd use regular dressing, like a ranch. And then I would actually get my 12 grams. The fat's critical. You gotta get it. You gotta have it. So that would be if you were to just have something out. Now, if you were at home, it's a lot easier at home. You can make a chicken breast or you can make a lean piece of steak like a sirloin. No, there's 6, 7 grams per ounce, so about 5 ounces of meat here. I'm sorry, this is carbs. So 40, it's like a medium baked potato, a half a cup of rice, that'll give you about 40 grams. A chicken breast will give me about 30 grams, and maybe I have a salad with a little bit of dressing on the side, whatever. Or I can have some almonds, some avocado, if I want to have a healthier fat, or what we call an omega-3 or omega-6 fatty acid. It's really just about balance, but that's one way to figure it out.
And vegetables are considered
Good
zero?
question. Vegetables. Most vegetables, if they're leafy green or they're fibrous, we consider those negative calories. Here's why. Fiber offers absolutely no nutritional value whatsoever. None. The body can't digest it, the body can't assimilate it. But what happens is the body expends more energy trying to digest it and assimilate it than what you're actually getting out of the food itself. So we actually call it a negative calorie. But those would only be foods that are fibrous. We're not talking about corn. We're not talking about pork and beans. We're talking about things like spinach. We're talking about things like lettuce, cabbage, celery, those types of vegetables, the fibrous vegetables. And those are called insoluble fibers. Anybody know what a soluble fiber is? Can you give me one? You should know.
What, like,
Fruit.
yeah.
That's a fiber,
Yeah.
soluble fiber. So good question.
It's 8 o'clock, 8:02 to be exact.
Yeah, you guys,
Any other questions?
how about questions? Any questions whatsoever? About anything I covered?
Yeah, so the heme body doesn't make vitamin C. You mentioned C and E.
Yes.
What about D then? Is that a,
That's essential too. Yeah, you have to get that through an exogenous source as well. Those are just two supplements that I talked about. Another one that I recommend, especially even males, ladies, calcium, without question. I recommend 1,000 milligrams a day. You say, well, I'm drinking milk, I'm doing this, but also just take the calcium. The other thing is, as I mentioned in the beginning of this, calcium is the most abundant mineral in your body. So to maintain optimal health, energy, and wellness, make sure you're getting enough calcium in your diet. Now, the best way to make sure you're absorbing that calcium is by making sure that you're taking in about half that amount in magnesium. Even more so than vitamin D. You guys get enough vitamin D just by living and by that big orange ball in the sky. Magnesium, without question, much better for absorbing the calcium. Not saying vitamin D doesn't do it, but it's not as effective as magnesium. But magnesium is also very good for heart function and heart health. So those are the ones that I advocate. Vitamin C, if you want to take a multivitamin, I'm good with that. There's a lot of micronutrients in there that help, like vitamin A. I'm good with that. There's some iron in there that's helpful. I'm okay with a multivitamin. It's a good start, but you still have to augment those other essentials that I talked about. That'd be vitamin C, vitamin E, calcium, and magnesium. So if you take in 1,000 milligrams of calcium, take in 500 milligrams of magnesium with it to absorb the calcium. Try to work your way into that 3,000, honestly, the 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C and the 400 to 800 IUs of E. And again, it will not hurt you or toxify you in any way. If anything, it'll help you. And what you don't use, you'll just eliminate.
Yeah, I get told I have expensive pee. So
That's true. But they're also very inexpensive. But there are reputable brands out there. So I'll give my email to Dustin.
yeah,
I won't talk about it here because I don't have time.
yeah.
But if you want to know what the reputable brands are, I've done a lot of research on it over the years. There are some that are not very good, but there are some reputable brands out there that I would recommend. There's about 4 or 5 of them, and you can get them at any of the local stores here.
You mentioned ALA as well. Something.
Yeah, ALA. Alpha lipoic acid is another supplement that I highly recommend, and that's because it is one of the best immune enhancers on the planet. But not only that, it's an actual, what we call an insulin mimicker. So if there's anybody who's borderline type 2 diabetic, you remember those receptor sites we talked about? There is a supplement that actually helps to stimulate those receptor sites, and that is alpha lipoic acid. It acts like insulin, so a lot of people that I work with, A lot of them are type 2 diabetic, and actually work with them and actually get them off medication and actually reverse them from being type 2. And ALA is actually an important factor in that because it helps with the insulin sensitivity and the glucose intolerance. But the biggest benefit out of ALA is the immune enhancement from it. It's probably one of the best next to L-glutamine on the planet. Nobody asked me about creatine. I'm kind of surprised.
We'll have to do another session. I mean, any other questions?
What time is it?
It is 7 or 8:06.
Yeah, you guys don't happen to have 4 minutes, do you?
I think we do. Yeah.
I want to
go
explain to you guys, I don't explain creatine because it gets a lot of bad press. And I'm really kind of surprised it wasn't asked because it's asked in almost every single clinic that I ever do. Anybody know anything about creatine? Anybody hear about it?
Yeah, basically it's
What's that?
popular in a lot of supplements. as
Yeah,
far
it
as-
is. So let me explain that to you a little bit because here's, in all honesty, especially the elderly, they really should be looking at taking this stuff. And here's why. Your body makes 3 grams of creatine on its own every single day just by itself. So your body's main key energy source within your body is something called ATP. You guys learned this when you were in 8th grade. ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, but all you have to know is tri, which is 3 phosphates. To be able to just do this, I have to have ATP, just to wash my hair in the morning.
Yeah.
Well, before ATP is ATP, it's ADP, which is di, which is 2. So what happens is your body makes 3 grams of creatine on its own, and actually what happens is creatine lends a phosphate to ADP to make ATP. It's called ADP-ATP turnover. That's what it's called. When I supplement with more of this gets used up very quickly, especially under highly stressful situations. We all know life is very stressful. So I'm talking about physical stress, and I'm also talking about emotional stress. And it's emotional stress that has been proven to cause a lot of the illnesses that we're seeing today, especially in the elderly. So, if I was to supplement this with 5 extra grams in a day, which is the recommended amount, it's just a teaspoon, I can actually increase this ATP turnover because now I got this, and this going on, instead of a very finite number, which is 3 grams, okay? So now, not only does it enhance my performance and my endurance, it actually enhances my strength and my viability. But the other part of it is, it's also going to enhance my immunity because it's also a cell volumizer, which means it actually pulls and hydrates the muscle cell optimally, which makes the muscle cell work and function in an optimal fashion. And remember, when you go back to what I said at the beginning, 90% of who we are and what we do, 90% of our immune system and everything is driven through your lean body mass. Okay? So 2 things, that's all it does. You know what creatine is? It's 3 amino acids in a concentrated form. And until somebody can prove that amino acids are bad for you, then I guess we can start thinking about not using it. But you hear a lot that we don't know enough about it yet. Yeah, we do. It's abundant in fish and it's abundant in red meat. Been eating red meat and fish for thousands of years. I don't think I've heard of anybody having any creatine issues or any creatine problems from it. So my recommendation is if you're taking it, it's fine. It's going to cause any ill side effects. 3 amino acids put into a concentrate form, that's all it is. So when you eat an egg, what's in there? What is it? You know, all 22 amino acids, right? Or all 20. So anyway, usually that's a question that's asked. I like to kind of at least bring it up in conversation.
Excellent. And
So thank you guys for your undivided attention. There's so much to talk about. I know I talk fast and I talk a lot.
well, thank you, Bob.
No,
thank you.
guys. Appreciate that.
And on an egg note, right? It's just for the shell of it, right?
No,
So.
it's not all it's cracked up to be. Though. And I do have a better wardrobe than this, by the way.